Did you ever build a Marvel Snap deck that on paper looks absolutely incredible, and then you play it and it just kind of hits like a soggy paper towel? You're just kind of looking at the list the entire time going, the curve is right, the numbers look good, it's got great synergy, it's got this should be winning, why am I losing? Today what we're going to talk about is the visual trap. That moment when a deck looks strong, it seems strong, it might even pretend to be strong, and then you play it and it isn't. And for those who do not know, almost everybody goes through this at some point, even the top players. What I want to look at today is how your brain tricks you and how your eyes trick you into analyzing something and looking at certain patterns and creating false trust. So that way, by the end of the video, you'll be able to analyze a deck right away and say, does this just look pretty or is it actually, well, strong? Because remember, a clean deck or a nice looking deck doesn't necessarily translate to a winning deck. However, a messy deck might secretly be exactly what you need. There's this weird thing that happens in Marvel Snap where certain decks just look right. You can't explain it, but they just do, and they probably don't function, and there's a reason. You see a list with clean energy curve, a list with 1, 2, 3 drop patterns, a list with predictable turn 6 finishers, and maybe a deck where all cards come from the same theme or synergy family. This probably sounds like move, destroy, discard, you get the idea. Now, visually, our brains love that. It's simple, it's clean, it's organized, it's intentional, it feels like it was designed that way. But the reality of that is that clean curves don't always win games, and sometimes pretty synergies might also lose you games. Cool combos don't always win you games. So what does? Execution? Yes. Consistency? That's important. And knowing how to put pressure. So a deck might be constructed with the intent of good synergy and curve, but if it can't execute on precision, well, that's the trap. So in my opinion, there are 3 major triggers that make players trust decks that actually don't perform at all. Number 1 is the symmetry trap. Your brain loves symmetry, a deck with evenly spaced energy costs, 1 card at each cost, a smooth power curve. It looks finished, smart, and clean. But be careful because clean decks aren't guaranteed to be consistent. Some of the strongest decks have weird shapes or gaps in them. Like you've seen decks without a single 1-drop in it. That's what I'm talking about. You've got decks that overload on a certain turn specifically to shape the rest of the match, or even skip turn 5, just entirely on purpose. So when you're looking at a deck, remember, looking correct is one thing, but strategically correct, that's a whole nother truth. But there's also something called the theme trap. We talked about move cards, destroy cards, Guardians of the Galaxy decks, all spiders, etc. And don't get me wrong, themes are fun, okay? There's nothing wrong with fun. You know, it kind of scratches that weird itch you have as a collector, right? You're trying to create certain synergies and force a deck to happen. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily strong. Remember that a perfectly thematic deck that's all theme is very often a perfectly dysfunctional deck. Like you have a deck of 12 move cards and they all work together kind of sort of, but none of them actually apply any pressure on your opponent. That's the visual trap of theme. But there's also combo. The combo trap might be the biggest one because you see a combo that looks awesome, and when it fires, it's like turn 2, 3, 4, boom, synergy, awesome, great, and on paper, it's beautiful. You put it out in a post or a screenshot and it looks fantastic, and then you put it in a Discord message and you send it to your friends and it's a perfect deck. But then the combo only shows out 1 in every 30 games. And when that happens, that means that the deck isn't really built for Marvel Snap, it's built for fantasy. It's clip after clip after clip only. So pulling the mega combo, it's great. And it's, you know, great to dream and build a deck with that in mind to make the thing happen. However, winning games will give you a much better thing to look forward to, and that's discipline. And this is a part of it that a lot of players don't necessarily realize. Your brain is evaluating your deck differently than logically. It's thinking about it visually exclusively, and that's a lot of lees. Marvel Snap makes deck building look easy because there's no mana base to build, there's no sideboard, there's no complicated weird ratios, and you just drag cards into the list, and it feels done. But what often happens is your brain jumps to two conclusions that aren't necessarily true, right? Number one, if it looks clean, well, it must play clean. False. A clean-looking list can absolutely brick, but a messy-looking list can really perform relatively smooth. The other is, if the deck loses, that's my fault. Yeah, that one probably hit a couple people really hard. It's a hazardous thing to first and foremost blame your gameplay before blaming the list. You assume that the visuals, it should work, so it's gotta be something with your sequencing, right? But sometimes the deck is the problem. It's not you, it's not your skill, it's not your reads. It's very often why a lot of players get stuck in that 70 to 90 range because they play decks that look great but refuse to admit that the deck is actually underperforming. In my experience, for any deck that truly fails because of the deck, it's going to fail for one of three reasons. The first one is it doesn't have a pressure window. It doesn't have a turn built in the strategy of the deck that is going to force your opponent to have to react to it. Remember, Snap is a pressure game. You create a moment where your opponent either commits or concedes, and a deck with no pressure point is a deck that generally is going to lose more cubes. The second thing is that there's no recovery option. A real deck is going to plan for a bad draw, but a visual deck is only playing for the god draw. If your entire deck is based on the idea of certain cards repeatedly in a certain order, you're not playing Marvel Snap, you're playing the lottery. So that kind of leads to the third reason, which is no flexible lines. Strong decks let you pivot, and weak decks are going to trap you. If your deck can only win one specific scenario, it's gonna collapse in ladder. Flexibility beats pretty every single time. So let's say you've taken that all into effect. You've thought about it all, you've built a deck. How can you actually test if the deck is good, besides just winning? Ask yourself these questions. Can it win without the best draw? Can it put pressure before turn 5? That kind of is a great indicator. Just those two alone. What about if you get countered? Can the deck pivot the game plan from the first plan you were putting out there? And more importantly, can you actually win cubes with the deck? This is what I mean that it's not just about wins, it's about also the construction to get to those wins. So here's where the shift in mindset really starts to kick in when you are now going to be building your new decks after this video. First and foremost, stop evaluating the decks with your eyes. I want you to exclusively look at outcomes. And that energy curve thing, don't think about it as much. I want you to think about the pressure curve, when you can flex pressure around. So that way it's less about clean lines and theme, it's more about adaptability and just winning lines. So what happens when a deck looks ugly but wins? It's not ugly. It's efficient. And then the other way around, if you have a clean deck that loses, it's not a clean deck. It's a trap. And again, I have to stress this, that every player at some point has fallen to the visual trap. Me, 100%. And I build decks as a part of my job. So it doesn't matter if you're new or you've been playing since beta, you've been to Infinite once, 17 times, never. It's just a consistent learning of the game. But once you start seeing those traps, you then start to realize that you can't unsee it. You start building and evaluating differently, and you're looking at your decks a lot smarter and less focused on, is it clean and pretty looking? Is it? No. What matters is the cubes. So when you're looking at the full deck list and every deck list from here on out, you'll realize, wow, these feel good, right? They play good. They win. They get me cubes. Isn't that the name of the game? That's what matters, not the visual trap. So I hope this helped in some way, helped you to kind of relook at deck building through a different lens. And if it did, share a story. Share me how you changed a deck that, was absolutely god-awful, but one card made the difference. Let me know that story down in the comments below. And as always, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.